Welcome to the Ask Faleskini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present Kevin Surace, entrepreneur, producer, innovator. Kevin, please tell us more about yourself. What is your story?
I've got so much story and so little time. Look, I've been in the tech world in Silicon Valley for 30 some odd years, and I have 95 worldwide patents now, mostly in AI. I invented the virtual assistant, the AI virtual assistant, so everything that became Siri and Alexa and all of that, I got to invent. But I also got to invent things like soundproof drywall and high insulating windows and all kinds of amazing things that I got to participate in with just wonderful teams of people. And I think apropos for this talk is some of the rest of what I do. I do get to use my music skills, and I'm a music director and conductor, and also have done 2 films and a whole bunch of shows that I've been involved with, some 60 shows around the country, including musicals and some Broadway shows and things. So you see some awards, they're all over here. Those are usually film or show awards. And so I get to do that, which is fun. And I'm working on a book, which I think is very appropriate for your show, called The Joy Succcess Cycle. And it really changes the way you think about living every day and handling every task in a whole new way that changes your outlook on life, that changes ultimately your chance of success.
Amazing. So many things to talk about, but let's start with the book. When you talk about Joy Succcess Cycle, is that something that you knew from the early age, from the beginning? Or is that something that you discovered more towards the midlife?
Sure. Well, here's an interesting thing. Everybody has their way of approaching almost everything, right? And so I always approached mine more with, we'll say, the glass half full than the glass half empty. But over time, people start to ask you about that. What are you doing? What are you doing differently? And, I sort of had to get to midlife to really start to tackle that question. How am I able to solve so many different pain points in the world, 95 patents, right? And how am I able to see those pain points? How am I able to see the solutions, right? So I'm clearly approaching things differently. There are people way smarter than me, trust me. Most of the people working on AI today are off the chart smart. But I was able to solve real problems for real people, and with real technology that I could see it. How do you do that? And part of that lied in what I began to document as the Joy Succcess Cycle. That it's really about how you treat your day every day. So this isn't a book about, I have to be happy. That's a different book. That's not this. This is about looking at every task and everything that comes at you from the point of joy instead of the point of, this is hard. It's a slog. It hurts. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the podcast. I don't want to talk to this person. I don't want whatever. And it turns out human nature is quite driven to be negative. And we're driven to be negative partly because our ancestors that allowed us to be here were scared that there was a lion behind the tree, right? And so they were scared and worried and everything's negative and we have to approach it. But today there isn't a lion behind the tree, unlikely anyway. And all the food we want is at the grocery store. So for most people in the West, right? And again, this may not apply to sub-Saharan Africa where you're just, begging for food every day. But for most people in the West, they go through their day and they have a set of tasks that have to be accomplished that day. There could be 10, 100, 20, whatever it is. And most people often approach those tasks with that idea that the lion is behind the tree. And so every task is terrible and every task is a danger and everything sucks. But if you turn that around and say, here is my task list, which I keep a task list right here all day, every day. And I look at each of those and say, what is the joy moment in this task? By the way, sweeping the floor, maybe the only joy moment is finishing the task, which is fine, right? It's fine. Then that's the joy moment. So I have a rule, and it's a little gamification of your life. And the book is 13 chapters. It'll probably be 14 chapters when it's done. We're nearing the final draft. And so if I look at the way humans look at everything that happens to them and the way they think, the minute you get up, if you start counting the negatives, internal or external, complaints, internal or external, all day that you have, the average American anyway, or Canadian, right, is going to find they might hit 100 or more every day. 100 little complaints. Oh, my legs hurt. Oh, it's raining. Oh, I've got to do these 3 things. Oh, I've got to fire this person. Oh, I've got to do this task of summarizing this and I don't want to do it. Oh, right. Oh, AI is going to take my job. Oh, good grief, right? How can you be your most successful self if all you're doing is being negative about everything that happens to you during the day? And you blame everyone else, and you blame this, and you blame that, or even you blame yourself. It's all bad. There's nothing good that comes of that. So we have this thing called a positive quotient, 0 to 10. And maybe you wake up and you start at a 5 just naturally. Well, you're very quick. If you take 1 point away for every negative or complaint that you have, you're quickly at 0. And you're going to have to dig yourself out, because your point of highest success is when you're at a 10. And you can stay at that 10 all day, because your mind is open. There's science that backs this up, by the way. It's fascinating. So for your listeners, tomorrow's task is wake up, count every negative, every single one. And you might be at 80, you might be at 60, you might be 110 by the end of the day. Don't let that number surprise you. The second day, here's your task going forward. We're going to gamify this, right? Your goal going forward after you've counted your 100 is to never have more than 1 a day. 1. You get 1 complaint a day, internal or external. Maybe you told someone, maybe you didn't tell someone, but whatever. 1. So the 1 complaint a day rule. Now, think about this. You wake up, you had a hard workout the day before. You wake up, you get out of bed, you go, oh, my knees really hurt. You have already used up your 1 complaint for the day. And now, because of the gamification of this, right, you start to think all day, all right, here's my to-do list. I have to find something positive in each one of these tasks. I have no choice. I cannot have more. I used up my 1. By the 3rd or 4th day, you get out of bed and you go, I am not using up my 1 right now. I'm glad I'm alive. I'm going to look at it a different way, right? And so it starts to change your life, your outcome. And I think this is more important in midlife than it is, this is why it's apropos, than it is for a 20-something-year-old for lots of reasons, right? But in midlife, you start to get into this, woe is me. Oh, I'm not making enough money. Oh, I didn't save enough money. Oh, the bananas went rotten. Oh, whatever. Whoa. Let it go. Because the best success of your life, by the way, that could be sports, it could be monetary, it could be with your family, it could be just happiness, whatever, can only be achieved if you let all of those go and you focus on the joy moments every single day. And you're going to find that your day is full of joy. It's full of joy. It's full of, my day will be full of 150 joy moments today. There you go.
So, if I may ask a couple of things. Basically, you're talking about the joy moments. Is that how you express gratitude? How do joy moments and gratitude?
Gratitude, yeah. So look, I think gratitude, there's a whole field of gratitude, right? And gratitude is good, but gratitude is typically, oh, I have gratitude for what Peter did for me today or what we did. And and that's great. And you should have gratitude, right? But nobody's going to say you have to have gratitude for sweeping the floor, right? But that still can be a joy moment. And you want to make all of your tasks, including I have to fire someone, a joy moment. You have to find the joy in doing so. By the way, joy in firing someone. While at the moment they're not going to think so, it's actually the best for them and the best for you. That's why you're terminating the relationship. It's just a job. They will get another one. They will be much happier 3 months from now, and so will you. And you have to explain that and even help them get another job. But this particular one isn't a good match for your skill set for where we're going, and that's it. And, when you're running businesses, hiring and firing is a lot of what you do. or layoffs or whatever. It just is what you do. And sometimes it's the best people with the best intentions, just not a good match for where you're going with the company, not a good match for the skills that you need. So I find joy in that. Not like, oh, I'm so happy to get rid of you, but this I know 3 months from now, because I've done it enough times, will end up better for you and better for us, and everyone's going to be happier. And we should just move along your career, because this is a dead end for you. It's not going to match, not a good match. And you probably know it's not a good match. Like by the time you get to that point, people usually know, yeah, I've been very unhappy. Yeah, I know, I can see that. We've been very unhappy. So it's time to move it along, right? So it isn't, gratitude's a good thing. Read all the gratitude books that you want. Try to have gratitude where it's appropriate. But I want you to think about complaints and keeping it at one a day. And once you keep it at one a day, you will turn every other moment into a joy moment, because you can't make it a complaint moment.
Okay. Another thing, and I think it will be similar. When you say let it go, is that linked to the forgiveness? So you just don't stick, you don't hold a grudge, you just let it go. Go there. Don't go.
Well, we talk about that a little bit in the book. Again, not trying to write things that people have already written, right? But pretty much you have to let go of almost everything, because most of it doesn't matter. When you think about eventually in your deathbed, right? You got 2 more hours to live. You do not want to be full of all of this. I still hate Aunt Mary because 25 years ago. Shut up. What? Really? Are you that important? Was she that ever? Stop it. Right? And you have to let some things go out of your life. You have to, as my wife says, bless them out of your life. Some things, you love them, you care for them, but you need to, and that could be a relative, it could be a friend. So we talk about this too. Like if you've got people that bring you down every time you see them, it's like, I'll call it Debbie Downer, but you know what I mean. Oh, I just want to tell you, Kevin, that life really sucks, and I'm blah, 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 blah. Let that go. By the way, maybe when the book comes out, you can hand them my book and say, maybe you need to rethink what you're doing in life. But even as I say this, right, midlife, Debbie Downer, I'm sorry to pick on someone named Debbie, because there's probably no such person, but no one wants to be around them. No one wants to be their friend. And as I sit here, everyone listening to this goes, or watching this, oh, they could never reach the pinnacle of their success, because they're wallowing in their sorrows all the time, because woe is me. And if that's where you are, you don't get to 95 patents, do you? You don't invent anything. You actually don't move probably much forward at all, because all your energy is going in to, dealing with this negative set of emotions that you have, which is woe is me, my life sucks, everything's terrible, whatever. And look, the truth is that's where most people fundamentally gravitate to. So don't feel bad when I'm calling you out and people, oh no, that's me. Well, it's most people. And that's what the book's about. It acknowledges that probably that's you a lot of the time. Here is a pathway, a methodology to get out of that. And if you follow the tricks in this book, somewhat, the methods in this book, you will not be in that same place literally weeks from now. And I know, because this is based on I do about 40 keynotes a year, about half on artificial intelligence, because of my experience in the field, about half on the Joy Succcess Cycle. And I can tell you, I get calls 2-3 weeks later from companies that say, a third of my sales force, you changed them. And some of them are unchangeable and we're going to move them along. But a third of them took what you said, wrote it down, went and executed it, and they are a different person today. So it works.
Amazing. I have another question I really need to ask you, because you're in tech, and because your book is so hands-on. All the advices are do this and you'll get
do this.
Are you will you develop the app or the agent for any of the existing
people have said I should, right? That's a great point. People said I should, and that you put your stuff in the app, and or with AI, it listens to you and says, it counts up your negatives, right? At least the ones that you verbalize. So there's a possibility to do that, but sometimes, I usually hold up my to-do list in these things, This literally says to-do list at the top. It is a to-do list pad. And I write the things that I have to do on there. Not all of them get done today. Some of them will get done over the course of a month because they're larger projects. But I write my to-dos on here, and I put next to many of them, here's the joy in doing that, right? Here's the joy in doing that. So if you think about that, I am not using my to-do list on screen, of which I have them. I'm not using the sticky notes, which I've also used. I'm using this pad because there is something interesting that happens when we write it out with a pen or a pencil with our hand. It means something more visceral than we typed it in or set it into a screen, right? So, so I talk about this in the book also on how I use real to-do lists. They're on paper, and they work better than anything I've ever used electronic. It's not that the electronic one isn't there. It's not that I can't see it. There's also something visceral about crossing it off this list. It has check boxes along the left, so I can check off things when they're done. If I really feel like it, I can cross it out and check it off, right? Because it brings me more joy to cross it off. So there's a lot of joy in finishing things on a written list. Mm-hmm. So old style sometimes is best, right? And if I were trying to keep track of my negatives throughout the day or complaints or whatever, just putting a tick on a piece of paper might be the most advantageous way to really hit you at the end of the day that, you put 72 check boxes. This is bad. This is like Kevin said, no more than one. But I'll tell you, you can't believe how many people literally weeks later come back and say, hey, I'm down to almost one a day. This is fabulous and it changed my life. Everybody.
You said that you're a keynote speaker. Will there be a coaching program or a webinar available when your book is out?
Oh, there's a good question. Probably will do some webinar. I have, I get to do so many keynote talks a year, mostly for corporate, but also many of them are large conventions and things like that. One of them I did a month or so ago was 5,000 people in the audience, right? So some of these are pretty large, and some of them are 25 people around a table, an exec team, something like that. So it's interesting. I don't think anyone wants to listen to an hour or two webinar, and I do talk about the Joy Success Cycle a lot in these podcasts. So people have learned a lot about the upcoming book simply from listening to me on podcasts, right? Because you ask good questions. I try to come up with the answers. We move on, and it seems to work. And it's more conversational than a talking head. So who knows? First get the book out. Job one. Great joy in getting the book finished. Trust me.
Yeah, I know. For my first book, that was really hard, but the next one is much easier. But I like how you keep it simple. You don't want to overcomplicate. You don't want to make a whole industry out of a book. You just want to keep it simple, and you want to keep it a joyful moment, and tick it, and then go do the next stuff.
Yeah.
So, what's your take? How should we get unstuck in the midlife?
When the book comes out, read it and execute it. There is there's lots of things that get people stuck, and some of them are legitimate, right? Relative dies, you get cancer. I mean, and so we're not talking about things where you deserve to go through the cycle of grief and remorse and anger and et cetera, right? So we're talking about the other 99% of your days when you're supposed to be productive. And a lot of times when we get to midlife, we go, I'm stuck in this job that I hate. So we talk about this in the book also. Why do you hate the job? Do you hate the job because you literally hate doing this work? Or have you never tried figuring out how you might find joy moments in the work? Have you ever tried that? Well, probably no. Nobody ever brought it to them. So the first thing is to try to find the joy moments in the work and see if you can get to a point where you no longer have any complaints. Because I have worked with people that say they hate their job, and weeks later, after going through this system, they have found that the job is more than tolerable. It's interesting. They're learning. They're approaching everything with joy so that everything is a joy moment rather than hatred and disgust, right? So part of this is in your mind. In fact, all of it's in your mind, right? So think about it. There's one person next to you who loves the job and you hate the job. All right. This is all the way you positioned it in your mind. You're both doing the same job. Both doing the same job. So why do you hate it? Well, you haven't found any joy moments. You're not looking for joy moments. Nobody ever told you the whole job could be full of joy moments. It could be also that, in this, we talk about this too, right? One of the worst things you can have is jealousy of something else that someone else has, right? So you look at someone else that, your neighbor, you go, oh, my neighbor makes twice what I do. Therefore, my life sucks. Are you sure your life sucks? Are you sure? Is that the only measure of happiness, success, et cetera, et cetera? Because there's always someone who has or makes more money than you. Always. There's 8 billion people on Earth. I mean, maybe Musk aside, right? Everyone else can, I don't want to say to aspire to be Musk because somebody, I don't mean it that way, but can aspire to have whatever, $236 billion, right? So no matter how much you have, there's someone who has more, right? Maybe Bezos is jealous of Musk, wishing he had as much money as Musk, right? You see my point? Is if that is a never-ending place of no joy, jealousy and wishing that you had what someone else has is the source of angst and complaint, because it in and of itself is a complaint. You used up your complaint for the day. Oh, I wish I had that house my neighbor has. Really? Why is that? And why would you use up your one complaint wishing that, right? You both started in different places. You took different journeys. You have different minds. You did different things. There were 1,000 choices. Many of them were made for you, including who you were born to, where you were born, where you went to school, where you went to high school. Those choices were made for you. You can't undo those, right? So to have any jealousy for what someone else has, to hope that somehow, well, I want what they have, is just a pathway to doom, right? Now, that's different than saying, I believe that I can forge a pathway to make more money and do so with joy every day. The best pathway to make more money is the Joy Success Cycle. Because if you make a joy moment out of everything that happens all day, you know what happens at work within a week? Everyone wants to be around you. Why? He or she is always joyful. They are finding joy in the littlest things. So they come around you just to perk themselves up. Now everyone wants to be around you. Once everyone wants to be around you, when it comes time for someone to be the next manager's retiring, whatever it is, guess who gets picked? Everyone likes Peter. Everyone. Well, we're going to raise Peter up. That's how you get risen up, either there or at another company, right? Everyone loves you. So this leads to the fastest path to success. It also opens your mind to solve problems in positive ways, employing the rest of your team and working with the rest of the team, right? So whether you're a business owner, or you're an entrepreneur, or you're just a mid-level manager, or you're just a worker, there is no just. All of those are fine. You are where you are in your career in midlife, and learn to appreciate that. And if there's any time you want to look over there and say, oh, that person has more than me, look behind you, because there's at least 7 billion people who have a lot less. Mm-hmm. You are on if you're listening to this podcast, you're already on the top of the heap, right? Just statistically worldwide, you could have been born somewhere in sub-Saharan Africa and have no chance to go to any school that makes any sense, let alone a university, and probably have no chance to make more than $1 an hour your whole life. And maybe barely a chance to even eat enough, and a low chance of living past 40. Think about that. And it was just where you were born, which was tied to where your parents were born, which, all those decisions were made for thousands of years to put you in that place. Okay, you could have had that. And instead, you have an amazing life that you're complaining about. Fine, you get one complaint a day. That's your complaint. Use it up and move on.
Okay, I have 2 more questions. And the first one is, you're talking that we are complaining. Is that complaining the direct consequence of us feeling entitled to something and then complain because we feel that we are entitled to have something, but we don't get it.
Well, some complaints, not all complaints are tied to that. A lot of complaints are, I don't want to do this task that the manager's assigned me, right? I don't want to do 8 of these. I don't want to do any of these tasks. I don't like my manager. I don't like the people I work with. I don't like. So there's all kinds of, things that we complain internally and externally about, right? But there's no question that entitlement is one of those things that will eat your soul, because in fact, you're not entitled to anything at all. And when you realize that, you go, anything I'm going to earn, I actually have to go do. I have to earn. So if I want to invent something, I actually have to go invent it. I'm not entitled to have that patent. I'm not entitled to somehow save the world from anything. I'm not entitled to change the world. But you can work your Joy Success Cycle to the point of maximum success that you can achieve, and try to do as much as you can in your life. And you can certainly work harder, work more hours, work, all kinds of things, right? Working more hours isn't everything. But if you're in a startup, a lot of people are, they do these smaller companies, there's weeks of 100-hour work. There's weeks where you put in 100 hours. It's also weeks where it's 40. But more likely it's 50 or 60, and sometimes it's 100. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. Don't go work for a small startup-like company, right? You will end up doing 100-hour weeks. And so whenever I'm running a startup, it's one of the things I tell the employees. I go, prospective employees, is you understand there will be some weeks where it's a 100-hour week. There'll be many where it's 60, and there'll be the occasional 40. Is that okay? And the trade-off for that is you get stock in the startup. And most of them say, yes, that's why I'm here. And some say, oh, I would never do that. Then it's great that we know that now. Thank you for coming in. The interview is ended. Not mean about it. It's just the interview is complete. We're done.
Thank you. I would like to to discuss your Joy Success Cycle through vibration. It's so popular to talk about high vibration, and you're also a musician and an artist. How do you see this in terms of vibration, in terms of, let's say, music, or how would you connect that?
Well, here's what I'd say. First of all, left brain, right brain. And most engineers, and I was, I came through school as an engineer. Most engineers, in fact, have also come up and done music or musical theater or something like that, surprisingly, right? Partly because there's math involved, perhaps, but also I think partly because it's the creative side that we can continue to do, right? And so I love the creative side. I wanted to go to school for music and musical theater. I'm a percussionist, actually, a drummer, a music director. And my dad probably rightly said, don't think so. Go to school for engineering. You're a good engineer. And if you want to do that, you can do it on the side, either as a hobby or an additional career or whatever. And I ended up doing that. I ended up running a theater and music directing some 60 shows. And so I've been really, really involved in musical theater and some productions across the country and conducting symphonies and all kinds of things. I love it. And it is a great balance to the, sort of complexity of, my latest patent, which is an artificial intelligence patent. It may be 350 pages. It's a huge patent. It was a massive undertaking to even conceive of how all these different transformer models could work together to get a result. And so it's a great balance to that. And look, that kind of life balance is great. If you happen to play guitar and you have some other career, keep playing guitar and in fact work to get better at guitar. Why wouldn't you do that, right? Why wouldn't someone do that?
Okay. I was implying more how to explain your Joy to Success cycle through more esoteric wording.
I don't know that it needs to be explained through more esoteric wording. I understand your point. Because when I explain it the way I explain it, people get it, and they don't have to think about any of those more esoteric things that we talk about, right? And so I try not to talk about it that way because it isn't about that. It's quite simply about one thing: changing the way you approach all of the tasks and all of the interactions you have each day. And you have to take it a day at a time, right? We're not trying to change your life in a day, but you're going to take it a day at a time. And don't get too don't try to tear it apart too much. Just take it for what it is, right? It's very simple. Just follow this process. My friend Goldie Hawn, who the actress, she has a great program called Mind Up for students, and it's a way of really calming the brain during the day, several times during the day, by taking a short mind break, so that you're not just doing math or doing English or doing whatever it is that your history, blah blah blah, in school, but you actually take a break and they learn how to calm their mind for those few minutes. And it's not quite meditation. It's kind of a form almost of meditation, but it doesn't really matter, right? When you describe it in those terms, like all we're trying to do, we're not trying to analyze it any more than that. And by the way, the science backs this up. All we're trying to do is take a short mind break and do that 3 or 4 times a day. And the students' scores go up because they're at this frenzy. And now you take it all down, and they're in a calm place and they can restart, right? And in a way that's a place of joy. You took away all the angst and whatever's going on in their life and in their studies and take it all the way down. And now they can see more clearly and they can go forward, right? And so that's a great way to take young people in a very simple concept. And the simple concept, the teachers teach this, is, all right, it's time for our mind break. It is no phones, no nothing. Close your eyes, 5 minutes. Here's some of the thoughts you might think through. I don't want you to think about your math and your problems. You know, think through this and take the mind down. So, and it's a practice called mindfulness, but it works. Very simple. I don't need to analyze it further. I think a lot of things we do in life is try to analyze these in incredible ways, right? And that gets more complicated for a lot of people, right? Like, it's really, really easy to understand that we complain most of the day, and the new rule is you only get one. You might be mad at the new rule. You might be angry at me for suggesting it. But even being angry at me, you used up your one. So be careful.
Okay, amazing. I really like how you make it simple, but you don't oversimplify it. I think that's important. It still works. It's still hands-on, and everyone can grasp the concept and try and make it happen.
That's right. That's right. Everyone can do it. Anyone can do it. Everyone can count. You know, all you got to do is count. And when you get to 1, you're done for the day. So choose wisely.
So when do we get the book?
As soon as I finish it. Oh, well, you know, publishing a book is complicated because you got 3 publishing routes. As you know, you can self-publish, hybrid publish, or publish with a full publisher. Full publisher can take 9 months when you turn in the manuscript, sometimes even longer. Hybrids probably 4 or 5 months, and then self-publish, you could push the button and do it tomorrow. Each of these has a trade-off of where you're going to get carried and where you're going to get seen and what kind of promotion there is and sort of all of that, right? And there's pluses and minuses. So I, probably end up with a hybrid publisher with a good imprint, which is sort of the publishing name on the book, right? And then you pay for that. You pay for that up front, and but they do much more in terms of promotion than a major publisher would do. So again, all of these are trade-offs. And then you got to get PR, and the PR for the book, you got to have a separate PR firm that's going to pitch you to its news organizations and TV shows and podcasts, and so it's all these things. And so you have a book. You've been through a little bit of this, right? You have a few books.
I always self-publish it because I don't want the hassle of dealing with it.
Right, of anyone, right. Right. And a lot of people do self-publish it, put it on Amazon, chop, I'm done, right?
Yep.
Totally quick. And it can be out literally in a week or 2. It's very fast.
Okay. So where can our listeners and viewers reach out and get in touch with you?
Sure. KevinSurace.com. It's the easiest thing in the world, right? Mm-hmm. Just first name, last name.com. And hey, I have my virtual me is on there. It's a full interactive avatar that you can talk to, and he will talk back to you. One of the most fun things is if you do the video version, it kind of looks like this, and the version of me is up on the screen, and you can ask me any questions you want, and I'll answer in my voice, and it's been trained by my podcast and stuff. But you can even ask him, hey, Kevin, tell me about the room I'm in. Tell me about my background. And he would say, well, I see kind of a map of the United States over one ear, and it's probably the rest of the world right behind your head. And I see you're in a gray shirt and you have glasses. And that's a little spooky because he can see your screen just as you can see him, which is really fun. So please interact with my interactive avatar. Ask him all about the Joy Success Cycle because he's been trained on the entire book.
Amazing. So is there one last thing that you would like our listeners and our viewers to take from this interview?
Oh my goodness, there's so much, because we could talk about AI and its impact on jobs and how that's going to change everything. We could talk about a lot, but look, I just leave you focused on the Joy Success Cycle. This is about midlife, and there are many things that can help you in midlife, including these clinics and things that Peter's working on, etc. But this particular methodology is one of the things that I think is game changing for most people, and it changes what you do every day in every little task, and all of that adds up to having a completely different life outcome. So if you want a different life outcome, meaning a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, this is one of the things you can set in place, and you can easily control. Like you control I can absolutely control how I approach sweeping the floor today. I can look at it with anger and disgust, or I can look at it as I'm going to have a cleaner house and I'm so happy to check it off my list, right? It's here. It's right here. You control how you look at every single task and everything that comes at you during the day. Do so.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for all the insights. And I'll include link to your webpage in the description below.
Great.
Okay.